My name is Alan Palmer, St. Vincent the Grenadines' favorite and most hated son, the Diaspora Machismo, wanted to share this video and let me know where you are watching from. A country that is unable to provide the volume of food it needs to feed its citizens is considered crisis prone. A country that depends on an external source or another country to provide the basic food sources is also considered crisis prone. A country that imports most of its food supply from another country and do not have a vital export sector to offset the deficit will soon become bankrupt. On the 1st of March 2020, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, through its Ministry of Agriculture and the Minister of Agriculture, signed a memorandum of understanding with the CARICOM private sector organization, which is encouraging the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to get the private sector to become involved in agro-food opportunities. The objective of this memorandum of understanding is to benefit the rural communities in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and they are particularly targeting youths and women. During the ceremony where this memorandum of understanding was signed, Sir Bertus Caesar, the Minister of Agriculture in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in his presentation to the CARICOM private sector organization, says, and I quote, his ministry and the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines are concerned about the country's rising food import bill and the impact on food and nutrition security. Here we see that the Minister of Agriculture, Sir Bertus Caesar, had declared to a sector in the CARICOM community that the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is quite concerned about the volume of food items they are forced to import to satisfy the need of the country, and the lack of security in food and nutrition that this high food import is causing the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. What I want to ask is the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines taking this potential crisis seriously, and if they are, what they are doing about it. I must declare here that the Ralph Gonsalves-led Unity Labour Party government is not concerned about the things that are affecting our country and our ability to progress. Here we see after the Minister of Agriculture of St. Vincent and the Grenadines had declared that St. Vincent and the Grenadines are approaching a crisis situation where food and nutritional security is concerned, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines took the opportunity to displace farmers, those people who are instrumental in producing food for our community. They took the opportunity to dispossess these farmers to allow a foreign quarry entity to come in to destroy viable, arable agricultural land for the mining of stone. One would have thought that since St. Vincent is in a food and nutritional crisis, in addition to the farmers that are currently involved in farming to stem this crisis, the activities they are engaging is helping to worsen the problem in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They should be making more lands available to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines that would help to increase the food production in our country, and it would also help to provide needed employment for the vast majority of Vincentians and especially youths and women who are currently unemployed in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We must also remember that quarrying destroys every alternate use of the land. After the quarrying process is finished, the land is good for absolutely nothing except to be a landfill. Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves, speaking to the press, was boasting that St. Vincent and the Grenadines is going to make 50 million EC dollars over a 30-year period by selling $2 a ton for the aggregate that comes from the mining process in that area. When you consider that St. Vincent and the Grenadines banana industry were grossing over $190 million per year, $50 million over a 30-year period is nothing. It amounts up to $1.4 million a year. And with export and trade tax, it may just amount up to $2 million a year. The government will be benefiting from this project. These are projects that should be handed over to private citizens so that they can make money and have the money returned to the economy. But instead, the government is scratching and scraping for a project that could only bring in the sale of aggregate to the government, $1.4 million a year. This is a waste of the government's time, and the government should never get involved in such trivial and petty projects. For a quarry project that will see the government making over $2 million a year, $1.4 million from aggregate sales and $0.6 million from tariffs, Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves led a high-profile delegation which includes the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, the Minister of Tourism, Montgomery Daniel, Carlos James, the area representative, Soberto Caesar, the Minister of Agriculture, and Julian Francis, the Minister of Energy, to a project that will only see the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines making a flouzy $2 million a year. Foolishness. Many Vincentians are concerned about the impact this project is going to have on the environment. The Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is pointing the citizens of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to an environmental impact study that was done in 2008 by Dr. Renel Murray. I am not sure if the projects that were being undertaken by the people who Dr. Murray did the environmental impact study for are the same. But however, we must consider that the situation has changed, because in 2021 we had a volcanic eruption that devastated our environment, and therefore a new environmental impact study must be done to see how this quarrying processing is going to affect the natural environment in conjunction with the damages that was done by the volcano. But we have a government and a prime minister who is unable to think and think clearly as it relates to the development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. A jetty is to be constructed on the beach to facilitate the export of aggregate coming from this quarry. Some of the question that has not been answered yet: who will be financing the construction of this jetty? This is a very good question. There's no information that is being provided by the government as to who will be financing the construction of this jetty. Another point that Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves made: there will be no dredging and there will be no driving of piles. What does that mean? Is they are going to take aggregate from the quarry area and they're going to fill in areas of the sea by pushing our valuable topsoil into the seawater to ensure that they can export the aggregate. The question we must ask here is: how is the construction of this so-called jetty or pier is going to affect the natural environment? Remember, there have not been an environmental impact assessment study as it relates to the construction of the pier. We all know that piling and dredging affects wave movements and tide movements, and therefore affects the buildup of soil in certain area, and it also affects the wildlife. But filling in large area of sea space to create a jetty will have an even greater devastating impact on the natural environment than dredging and piling would. But you see, dredging and piling is too expensive. And in case the investors would have get a better deal in places like Guyana, they can abandon their project, destroying the natural environment. And there is nothing that the Vincentian community, especially those people in North Leeward, can do about it. Ralph Gonsalves-led Unity Labour Party government is blinded by a lack of innovation. They have no plans for the development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And like a drug addict that wants a hit, they are willing to destroy even the natural environment to get a little money to pay the wages of government employees in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Just a few years ago, Ralph Gonsalves was speaking about ecotourism is the way of the future. Yet, those things that can be used in developing and fostering ecotourism in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are now being frowned upon and are destroyed without anyone to save it. The people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in particular, the people of North Leeward, should not allow this project to go forward because the government is not bigger than the people. It is their responsibility to represent the people. And if the people says that this project is not a project they want in their community or in our country, it shall not be allowed to happen. Remember, the government is employed by the people and not the other way around. The government needs to look for viable investments where Vincentians can become the owners of the investments that are being put down in the country, where Vincentians will have a lion's share of any investment that is put into the country. It is the responsibility of every government to ensure that their people develop and their people thrive. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it is not that way. My name is Alan Palmer, St. Vincent and the Grenadines' favorite and most hated son, the Diaspora Machismo. Wanted to share this video and let me know where you are watching from.